Hello everybody and welcome to the MoneyShift YouTube channel. I am Thanasi and today we have a 2017 Ford Fiesta ST. Now this model has a largely stock appearance. Nothing is different on the outside. It does have an aftermarket exhaust, but this is a Fiesta ST and I really do love how these look. I mean, it does look very European, even though this is a Ford, because let's remember, this was developed primarily for EU markets before it came over here, but it looks fantastic in this tangerine color. It does look remarkably premium on the outside for a Fiesta. Where that premium feel sort of falls away is as you make your way to the inside, and it really starts with this door. Look how thin this thing is. It really does remind me of a Honda Fit. Just how thin and how like dainty it looks. It feels like I could bend this in half. I clearly couldn't, but it just feels like that. And oh boy, I do love Ford's, double mirror there. Super helpful for blind spot. But as we make our way to the inside, the ST's main knock has always been, aside from quality, these Recaros. And I'm pleased to note that I'm a 6 foot, 275 pound man that fits in these, not on these. And that was actually a pleasant surprise to myself. But as we work our way to the inside, let's start with this instrument cluster. It's remarkably basic. It's easy to tell where Ford put the money behind this car, and that was in driving dynamics, which includes the engine, the shifter, and everything else, because there is a lot of hard plastic in here. This is hilarious. The heated seats have only one function, and it's scalding hot. I love that. I thought that was so funny. But all the switchgear, all the plastic, everything you see, everything you touch is all cheap. Has a sunroof, though. Hooray! Let's take a listen to that aftermarket exhaust and get going. I got Tim in the car.
What's up, guys?
And this is his Fiesta ST. So before we get into the Backroads portion, I want to ask, tell me about this car, tell me what you have on it, tell me what we're working with.
Yeah, so I have a 2017 Fiesta ST, and I have some basic mods on it. The first thing I wanted to upgrade, because I was going to a track day recently, was the brakes.
Sure.
So I upgraded the brakes, the fluid, just the pads, changing the pads. I've also upgraded the exhaust to Miltech exhaust, which is all the rage on the European Fiesta STs. So I had to go with what everyone was going with.
Sounds dynamite.
Yeah, it sounds good. It's not obnoxious, but it makes the right sounds. I've also, and I'll put this on my own YouTube channel very shortly, I've just tuned it yesterday with a mount tune for 93 octane stage 1.
So what does that give it for power level? What's the big change there?
So it's around like 15 extra horsepower and probably like around 20 more extra torque, but it's across the whole band.
So it's us gamers would call it a quality of life improvement.
It's how this car should have come.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And actually in Europe they have the ST200, which they made to kind of, because the mount tune was so good, they just made the whole car that way.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, right on.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I've talked about it on this channel in the past. I'm not really a big, I don't really care about power numbers and stuff like that, but doing things like this where it adds a little bit of power, but it really just changes the dynamic of the power curve, that's the key, right? So I'm a big fan of this tune for sure. And how about this throttle? I think there you mentioned something about the throttle. It feels really nice here.
So throttle pedal spacer, one of the big complaints is that the pedal is too far in and too far out, so you can't heel toe. Yep. So I just added a spacer.
Which, by the way, this car does not have rev match downshift, right?
No.
Okay, so in the Civic Type R, we have the same issue. And you need that if you don't have rev match downshift. So this doesn't have it, so the fact that he has the spacer is key. All right, so let's get into this Backroads portion and let's talk about the few things that we like to talk about, which is steering, transmission, brakes, and just overall feel of this chassis. Okay, beautiful fall foliage, by the way. I'll try to get a shot of that for you guys here. It is super nice, so many colors. But anyway, enough of that. So this car has an open diff, correct? There's no diff here. Okay, correct. So for a car that has an open diff that uses brake vectoring to sort of emulate an LSD, The steering feel and overall chassis feel of this car is spot on. Like, honestly, it feels very Civic Type R-like, but just reduced in some ways. The weight is not there in the steering like the Civic is, but to be quite frank, I actually like this more. It's easier to get to the steering angles that you want, but you still have all the same steering feel that you would in something like a Civic Type R. How's the transmission? It's all stock, correct?
It's stock, yeah.
Okay, how do you like it?
I love it. I mean, it's my first manual car, so
nice.
Not much to compare, but it's easy.
I mean, the clutch engagement is light, but it is still communicative. I think something that 2015 and newer manual transmission cars suffer from is no communication, and it's just on-off. Right? The Civic Si is a huge problem with that, where it's just entirely on-off. This car, it is incredibly light, but you can still at least feel where the bite point is. So for something like yourself, where this is a first manual car, it is spot on.
It was so easy to learn on this car, really.
Especially because these have good amount of torque too, yeah?
Yes.
Do you know offhand what the torque figure is with the tune or without, like roughly?
Without, stock 214.
Okay. Yeah, which is great, especially for a car that weighs, what, 13 pounds? 14 maybe? But getting into this twistier section, you really hone in on that steering, right? You feel it. It's very precise, very light, very accurate. I love this. I cannot stress enough how good the steering is. Sure, there's a little body roll, more than you would find on, say, a Veloster N or a Civic Type R, something like that, but body roll's fine. There's nothing wrong with a little body roll. I loved it in my Miata, and I like it in this as well. In terms of the throws, it's remarkably precise. It does have a little kind of what I'll call stick and gravel feeling to it. It's not a Honda shifter by any stretch of the imagination, but it is still a really good unit. Definitely, if you're like Tim and learning to drive stick, this is a solid option to have for sure. It's a really good setup, especially with that throttle spacer to really get that heel toe shifting down. And yeah, that exhaust sounds dynamite. We recorded a little rev clip again because I included it in the beginning, but it deserves to be played again. This exhaust sounds perfect, and it sounds remarkably European, and these are a massive hit in the EU, right? These are literally everywhere.
Yeah, that European sound is exactly what I was going for.
Massive drag when this when I was looking to buy the Civic Type R. I was actually really hoping to get the new gen Fiesta ST because I'm a massive fan of the design of the new body style. The 3-cylinder motor was really cool. They revised the interior a little bit, and it was just really nice. But you know, come to find out,
we don't get it.
We don't get it. We don't get it. But overall, for the Backroads portion, this car is remarkably solid. I mean, this should come as no surprise to anyone looking for a Fiesta ST review that it's good in the Backroads, right? But oftentimes we've found that cars that do really well on the Backroads could potentially suffer on the highway. And on the highway, we care about things like infotainment, road noise, and just overall how the car feels at speed. So let's see if the Fiesta ST suffers the same fate as some others. So we're at speed right now. We're at 70 miles an hour on our traditional highway portion here, and I'm actually remarkably surprised at how little road noise there is. For a car that's, you know, this isn't a knock by any stretch, but it's on the cheaper end of Ford's lineup, right? This is based on Ford's cheapest car.
Yeah.
To have this level of road noise is pretty remarkable. I mean, these tires are different than stock, but they're stock size, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, and he has the same Firehawk Indy 500s that I put on the Civic Type R with the aftermarket wheels. And I'll say this car is infinitely quieter than my Civic Type R was in stock form, and even quieter than it is with the wheels. Like, overall, this is a really fine place to be from a noise perspective. You don't really hear much, which is super nice. So how's the infotainment in these cars?
Really good.
Do you like it?
Yeah, so they used to have like the my Ford Touch or whatever it was,
Oh,
and they switched it to Sync 3, and Sync 3 is great.
Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and this has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
Yep.
Have you had any issues with your Android Auto in this car?
No, it does exactly what you need to do when you want it. It's great.
Amazing. And you guys know what I say. If a car has Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, I don't care at all about anything else in the infotainment for the most part. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be leveraging only Apple CarPlay or Android Auto at all times because it has my GPS, it has my music, and it has an infinitely better interface than any automaker has been able to provide in the recent, decade? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is touchscreen as well, yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because oftentimes what happens in these cars is they only allow a button. You can't touch it. That was a big thing with Mazda in the early 2016, 2017 era. So I'm really happy that this is a touchscreen because the screen is close. I mean, you might have to reach for it if you're a little taller, but it's convenient enough.
And you got the voice activation. You just hit the button and you tell it what you want.
And Ford has always been pretty good, regardless of interface, at voice control. I feel like they're one of the better ones at it. I know Acura started it, but they've always been what I would consider leaders or close to leaders in terms of just understanding what you're saying, regardless of accent or anything like that. How's the sound system treat you in this?
It's better than my Civic. It's decent. It's nothing to write home about, but it's clear.
So this is not your daily driver, correct?
No, I drive a base model 2012 Civic.
Okay, and that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
This is a great example of a two-car lineup that isn't necessarily your regular run-of-the-mill Honda Accord Civic and then like a Corvette. This is a front-wheel drive hatchback, excuse me, that is leveraged for weekend use, and it's a fun enough car for that, right? I mean, you're coming from, what, a B8 S4 into this car?
Yeah, this is more fun than the B8, in my opinion. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. This car's more tossable. This car's more fun. Sure, it might not be as quick outright as, say, a B8 S4, but even for cruising on the highway, which is what that car is remarkable at, this thing is excellent.
This is balanced. This is a balanced car.
For sure. I mean, we just went over a bridge on the highway, and sure, there was a little bump, but it was nothing that felt remarkably terrible. And I mean, again, I'm a 6 foot tall, 275 pound man, and the biggest knock that Ford has always had is these seats, right? The Recaros can tend to, hug you a little too nice, if I do say so myself. And I fit okay. I wouldn't say I like slide or wiggle around in these seats. I fit just okay. But I'm probably average American size, so to fit okay in a Recaro that's designed for European markets is a win.
Yep, 5'7", 140, perfect.
yeah, perfect. So that's a good barrier right there. So overall, in the highway portion, I will say I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the Fiesta ST. It's remarkably quiet, even with this aftermarket exhaust. The drone in here is non-existent, I would say. And we played around with various speeds on the highway there.
Yeah. And with the drone, I actually removed the sound supposer. These actually come with a little box that air goes through and pumps into the cabin. And it sounds good, but I got the exhaust. I wanted to hear that.
Yeah, perfect. So with the highway portion and the backroads portion put aside, let's get into the around town portion, where I'm going to ask him what he was thinking about, why he bought the Fiesta ST, and what would, if he was to buy something else, what would it have been and why? Okay. Backroads portion, check. It's a Fiesta ST. What do you expect? The car's awesome. Highway portion, also check. Pleasantly surprised with this car's lack of drone with an aftermarket exhaust, and it's just overall poise at highway speeds. For a car that's a base model in Ford's lineup, it's remarkably composed. And honestly, you could click off road trips in this, averaging high 30 MPGs, no problem. But as we get into this around town portion where we drive to our final destination, I'm curious, so tell me a little bit, what other cars were considering, if any, when you purchased this? Was anything else on your mind?
An NA Miata, hands down.
Okay, because again, this was his weekend car, right?
Yes, exactly.
So that just preface with that, but yeah, that makes sense.
So NA Miata, but I was finding a clean one. I was looking for something with like low miles. And it's hard to find a clean one, and when you try to find a clean one, if you do, they're pretty up there in price.
Totally. We're in the Northeast here, and if you find a clean low mileage Miata, you're talking almost 10 grand.
Exactly. Yeah.
For something that's a 1990, right? And when you're spending what, like 15 to 20 on a Fiesta ST, it's tough to justify.
Yeah, and then coming from the B8 S4, I wanted something with a bit more torque.
Right.
I knew getting a turbo car, you can get a tune, which I did, and that's to me that's what's fun. I was also thinking of maybe an older Mustang.
Sure.
But I was leaning more Miata, something fun you can toss around corners. And as soon as I started seeing reviews for this car, Matt Farah, Chris Harris, all those guys praising this.
For sure.
It was a no-brainer.
It's tough to beat because, again, at the end of the day, I think this car, while it's seemingly potentially surging in popularity, it's still relatively obscure. It's a car that's often forgot about, right? I mean, Tim and I were talking about it before this, but a lot of people think GTI first in the hot hatch segment in the US, and for good reason. If you're looking for a daily driver that does it all, a GTI is a solid option. It's not going to be as fun to drive as this car, but it does in fact do it all, right? But the Fiesta ST doesn't come to mind, and because of that, you can get these for good deals. I've seen them sub 10 grand, but if you want a clean one and a highly optioned out one like this with a really nice color, even still, it's a bargain. You're spending under 20 grand for a car that has this much fun, this much reliability, and great fuel economy. It's tough to really go wrong with that overall package. If I had to daily this full time, I would probably lean more towards the Veloster and GTI camp than I would the Fiesta ST. I wouldn't knock you for buying one because they're tremendous machines. But if I was doing all my jobs, right, my fun driving, my daily driving, my road trips, the GTI and the Veloster N they're just newer, quite frankly, which says a lot. But overall, you can't ignore the Fiesta ST in the current price bracket. 10 to 15,000 buys you a really, really good one, and you're not going to find many cars that really outdo it, honestly. Like, I enjoy this car a lot. I appreciate Tim for bringing it out with the tune on it as of yesterday.
Yep.
So, freshly tuned Fiesta ST, and it really is a joy to drive. If you are in the market for a hot hatch, or even if you're not, okay, and you're looking around for a second car, you're looking for a car that's just fun to drive, consider a Fiesta ST. Give it a drive. You will not be disappointed. Before we close, tell the people where they can find more content about this Fiesta.
Okay. Yep, so FoogTube on YouTube and on Instagram, and I'll be doing updates on mods on this, car events in the New England area. So if you want to give it a subscribe, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, check them out. I mean, this thing's awesome. It's bright orange, which, by the way, is the best color for the Fiesta ST, followed by what I would say the red, followed by the green.
Yes.
I would say orange, red, green, top three colors for the Fiesta ST by far. So check out the content. This car's awesome. There's going to be more info on the tune there. So go check it out. Give him a subscribe. He rocks. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, truly appreciate it. We keep growing week over week, and that could not be possible without you guys. So thank you very much for that. But as always, drive safe and be safe. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.